Thanksgiving recipe number 2. Actually, this one is a twofer, both using cranberry. At Thanksgiving, everybody has cranberry sauce, that's a given, so you'll see my take on it. And I've got a recipe that uses cranberries in a dessert, or when you like to sort of blur that line between dessert and breakfast. With both, the theme is the same. Both are vegan and gluten-free, but they're also lower in sugar. Cranberries are naturally tart and have a little bit of sweetness to them already, but it seems that a lot of traditional recipes just throw a ton of sugar in there, so you don't need nearly as much as you would think. So that was kind of the theme I was playing with, is to really get the natural tartness of the cranberries out and use a little less sugar. Let's get cooking. First up are my Cranberry Oat Bars. I saw these in a grocery store under the gluten-free section and they were so good I had to figure out how to make them for myself. And I have to say, this is one recipe that I tried once, tiny bit of tweaking, and otherwise it was good to go. So I hope it's as easy for you as it was for me, because Lord knows I play around with recipes forever sometimes. This one, pretty easy. I'm just taking 2 cups of cranberry, fresh cranberries, and adding a 1/4 cup of maple syrup. This will be the filling. And then I'm just going to put it over a low flame, very, very low. And then I'm just going to cover these to keep some of that moisture in. These will cook for about 8 to 10 minutes while we make our crust. All right, while the sauce is cooking, we're going to make our crust/crumble topping. I'm starting with a 1/2 cup of almond flour, which I just took raw almonds and put in a blender until a fine powder formed. You can use already made almond flour. I just find that raw almonds are a little more cost effective, and sometimes I don't know what I'm going to be using them for, so I just buy raw almonds and then decide later, and they make a great almond flour on the spot. 1.5 cups of that, 1.5 cups of rolled oats. But half of the rolled oats I'm going to blend and half are going to be raw, so 3/4 of each. So to my 1.5 cups of almond flour, I'm going to add 3/4 cup of the plain oats, and then I'm going to give the other 3/4 cup a quick whir in the blender to make them a little more fine. Our oven is ready. Okay, so half of the oats are now more like a flour, and the reason for this is so that it's not too oaty. If you have whole oats in there, it won't hold together very well. So we'll just sprinkle this in there. Then just a few more dry ingredients, a teaspoon of baking powder, and a generous pinch of salt. Just give that a quick little whisk. And then I'm going to do, for sugar, a 1/2 cup of maple syrup. I've seen in a lot of recipes that involve cranberry up to like 1.5 cups of white sugar. That just seemed so astronomical to me. So I thought, a little bit of maple syrup, that's all the sweetness you need. And then I'm going to stir this all together. And then the last ingredient is our coconut oil. I refrigerated the coconut oil because I want it to be kind of like when you use cold butter in a crust, so that when you slice it into the crust, you're kind of cutting it in and it doesn't become this oily mess. It still holds its shape. And you can see how I'm just cutting the coconut oil into the mixture, which is perfect timing because I can hear the cranberries over there starting to pop and bubble, so it'll all come together in perfect time. These cranberries are sizzling up perfectly, and then you can just give them a little light stir. You can poke some of the ones that haven't broken yet if you want, or you can leave them whole. Make sure you're keeping this on a really low heat. But this sauce has come together very quickly and is nice and thick. So I went ahead and made sure that all the cranberries did burst because I want it to be nice and spreadable, and then I'm going to just remove it from the heat. It doesn't need to cook anymore. Okay, so then I'm just going to take this over here, and now we assemble. I'm using a regular square 8x8 or 9x9 pan, but I lined it with aluminum foil, not just to save my pan, but it'll lift out really nicely and make for easy cutting when we're done. So half or slightly more than half of the crust mixture will go in your pan, depending on the size that you're using, and you can just use your hands to spread it all around. Next is our cranberry layer, where we just spread it, or plop it as I just did. And then the last is to just crumble the last bits of crust over the top. It's a nice rustic dessert, so you don't have to be too precise about it. And then the beauty of this dessert is it only takes 15 minutes in a 350 oven, and then we get to eat it. So our cranberry bars are done, and as with any dessert fresh out of the oven, you just have to let them cool before you cut them. We're just gonna lift the bars right out of the pan, and then these should make 16 squares. Still a little hot. These are so good. A little bit of oats, which is why it makes a good breakfast. But that tart cranberry is such a great way to use a great fall flavor in dessert or breakfast without it just being, you know, cranberry sauce. Next up is our cranberry sauce. I am going to tell you how to make a full recipe, though even as I'm making it, I'm only making a half because you could serve this for a whole Thanksgiving dinner. It's just me and my husband in my house. I don't need a whole family's worth of cranberry sauce. So I'm going to be making just half. Normally you would start with a full bag, a 12-ounce bag of cranberries, and so I got half of that, and to that I'm going to add my maple syrup. For a full batch you're going to use a half cup. I'll just use a fourth right now. So it's very easy to cut in half or double or triple as you need to feed your crowd. And then for orange flavor, I love cranberry and orange, but I particularly love these clementines. You could use a navel orange if you wanted and just juice it as you regularly would. Clementines I find to be really easy to peel, so I'm not only going to use the orange itself, but I'm going to save the peel to zest it later. And then, why not throw in a little extra fiber while you're at it? You can juice it regularly if you want, but I'm just going to throw this in my little blender, which I love to do with desserts. I just give it a quick little zhuzh in the blender. And then it has this lovely little orange juice that'll cook down with it. So here's where you could also add a little extra orange flavor, which would be a 1/4 cup of an orange liqueur. Would you believe that our grocery store down the street had no orange liqueur? So they totally sabotaged my recipe, but that's what I was going to do here, and I highly recommend it. It's delicious. I'm just gonna put this over a low flame, and then just let this cook over a low flame, uncovered, for about 25 to 30 minutes. Just like with the filling we made for the dessert, you'll know when you start to see the cranberries starting to burst and they come together into this lovely little sauce. Okay, so the cranberry sauce is ready. I'm just going to turn the heat off and then add my last 2 ingredients. My aunt always adds a little bit of walnuts to hers, which I love. So I'm just adding a few chopped walnuts. I personally don't like them to cook. I just like that really crunchy walnut in the cranberry. So we'll just add those in, kind of crunching them up as we go. About a half cup for a full batch. And then that zest from the clementine. And you can do this to taste, but generally speaking, the full clementine for 1 batch of cranberries. And then when you put it in your serving bowl, you've got that traditional bright cranberry sauce that makes for a perfect Thanksgiving meal.